Have you ever felt like the ground beneath you was shifting, even though everything looked solid? I ask myself as I stare into the mirror, tracing the faint crease between my brows. It's midnight, and the bathroom light casts a harsh glow. Behind me, my husband's parting words from tonight's argument echo louder than the tick-tick-tick of the clock. You're crazy for asking about my past. Crazy. The word stung because it was laced with contempt. But I've never doubted my instincts. And for weeks I felt he's still lying, burying pieces of his history, so deep I can't reach them. And now, tonight, I found proof. It began innocently enough. Last week, I noticed he'd been distant, lost in thought at dinner, his phone face down on the table more often, a shadow crossing his eyes when I mentioned old friends. I asked, "Is everything okay with your family?" He smiled and said, "It's fine, a long story." I dropped it, but then I overheard him on a late-night call, a woman's voice whispering, "You promised you'd tell her." His reply, "Not yet." My heart caught. I kept pretending to fall asleep, but his soft footsteps on the stairs and the muted conversation haunted me. By morning, I was unsettled. My safe marriage felt riddled with cracks. So I started digging. Our shared computer browser history, professional sites, news, recipes, but nothing personal. His email, business newsletters, spam offers, but no old friends. I glanced at his files, documents, spreadsheets, but no personal mementos. Then a flicker in an old folder, a scanned passport copy with issue date 2008, and a faded driver's license from another state, under a slightly different name, Jonathan Reed instead of Martin Reed. My pulse hammered. Why would he have a second driver's license? I clicked deeper and discovered a hidden subfolder, archives. Inside were photos, a younger him with someone, smiling wide, arm around a woman whose face was lovingly blurred in one shot and clear in another. A dark-haired woman with bright eyes, his former fiancée. And then, a wedding invitation, Jonathan and Elena's wedding, June 12th, 2009. My breath caught. I'd never heard of any Elena. That afternoon, I confronted him. He'd come home early, saying traffic was light. I held up the photos and documents. He froze, brows furrowed. "Where did you get that?" he hissed voice. "Lo, I found it," I said quietly. "Why did you never tell me about Elena? About any of this?" I waved the wedding invitation like a banner. His face shifted, anger, fear, guilt. He dropped his briefcase. I was going to tell you," he stammered, "but it just got complicated." His eyes darted to the floor. "It was years ago." "Complicated how?" I pressed. "Is that why you've been lying? That's why you cut me out of those months in 2009. He ran a hand through his hair, avoiding my gaze. "I don't know if it matters now," he said, voice cracking. "I'm married to you." The ache in my chest twisted. "It matters," I shot back. "Secrets matter. They shape who we are. I deserve to know your past, fully." He looked at me, conflicted. "Elena, she didn't survive." His voice was a whisper. "It was a car accident." I couldn't face talking about it. My heart lurched. "She died," I echoed. "That's why you changed your name, left your old life behind." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "I was so young. My parents arranged the wedding. When she left me, I lost everything. I took my middle name as my last, started over. I never wanted you to see that broken version of me." I stared at him, throat tight. "You left out a part of you, your grief," I said softly. You treated me like I'd reject you if I knew. He stepped closer, voice raw. I was ashamed. I fell in love with you, with this new life. I thought, if you knew, you'd hate me. I felt tears well. I don't hate you, I whispered, but I need honesty. Starting now. He nodded, swallow hard. I'll tell you everything. Elena, the accident, the name change. No. More secrets. That night, we sat at the kitchen table, the letter's musty odor filling the air. He pulled out a stack of yellowed pages, Elena's love letters to him from back then, passionate, tender, hopeful. He read them aloud, voice trembling. My dearest Jonathan, your laugh is my favorite sound. Each line wove a story of two young hearts torn apart by fate. He explained, Elena was his college sweetheart. They married hastily after a whirlwind. Romance. 3 months later, returning from a visit to his parents, their car was struck by a drunk driver. Elena died instantly. He was in the hospital for weeks. The grief was unbearable. His family moved him out of state. He changed his name, started a new career, and promised himself he'd never love again, until me. I listened, tears streaming, as he shared his darkest hours, nights in a sterile hospital room. Isolation, guilt that he'd survived, and the cruel emptiness of a final goodbye he couldn't say. I saw the lines etched on his face, grief's aftershocks still pulsing beneath his calm veneer. When he finished, silence pressed us together. I reached for his hand. Thank you for trusting me, I said softly. I'm sorry for your loss. He closed his eyes, nodding. We sat there until dawn, unearthing the past, weaving the broken threads into our shared story. And as the first light of morning brushed the countertops, I realized honesty's price is steep, but secrets cost more. I held him close and whispered, we'll get through this together. And even though the road ahead would be winding, filled with sorrow, healing, and new truths, I knew we'd walk it hand in hand, free of the lies that nearly tore us apart. That night, after hours of sleepless tossing, I finally drifted off around 3 a.m., only to wake again. At 5:17, heart hammering, the moonlight sliced through our bedroom blinds in cold white bars. Across the floor, Michael was lying next to me, curled inward as if bracing himself, stilling the echoes of the confession. I watched his chest rise and fall and wondered if the past could be so broken. Could the present still hold us together? The next morning, I found myself at my desk, coffee steaming beside me, ready to sift through the remnants of his life before Elena. I logged into the private browser window he'd never closed and revisited the folder labeled Archives. One by one, I opened the letters he'd read last night. As I reread them, her handwriting looping in hopeful arcs, I realized how deeply grief had shaped his hidden years. Then I discovered a subfolder I'd missed. Elena's journal. My pulse spiked. He'd never mentioned that he'd saved her diary. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the file. Part of me recoiled, wanting to respect his pain. But the other part, my part, needed to know every shard of his truth if I was to rebuild trust. I opened the first entry, dated March 2009. Loving Jonathan is like breathing fire. He lights up my darkest hours. I can't wait. Until we're on our honeymoon, Tuscany will be the perfect place to start forever. My eyes blurred. The raw sincerity in her words made what happened next feel crueler still. Over the next 2 hours, I devoured the entries. Their wedding day, her fears when she got pregnant at 19, her dreams of family, and then the penultimate entry. Jonathan, I love you more than I know how to say. I'm scared of the roads back home. Please drive safely. I need you here, not out of town. That was dated 3 days before the accident. I closed the file and pressed my palms to my eyes. The innocence he'd stolen from her life and then buried hung between us like a guillotine. At 8:30, Michael appeared in the doorway, dressed for work. His tie was crooked. When he saw me, my face pale in the dawn light, he froze. "You read it," he said softly, dread creeping into his voice. I nodded, my voice thick. "I needed to." I shoved my chair back. "Why?" He sank onto the edge of the bed, running a hand through his hair. "I thought it would kill you to know how young I was, how broken I became. Do you know how it felt?" I asked, tears pricking. "To read her words, her hopes for your honeymoon. You never let me see that part of you." He bowed his head. "I'm sorry." I exhaled, fighting the tremor in my voice. Sorry doesn't undo the years of secrets. He reached out, but I pulled away. "I have to go to work," he murmured, voice hollow. He left the room as if stepping through a gap in reality, not a door. At my agency's open plan office, I sat at my standing desk, heart pounding with the weight of morning's revelations. My colleagues hustled around me. Pitch decks, prototypes, client calls, normal life pulsing on. I swallowed, raised my chin, and dove into writing a proposal for usability testing. My boss, Carla, passed by and paused. "You okay?" she asked quietly. I forced a smile. "Just had the flu," I whispered. She nodded sympathetically and moved on. I would need more than coffee to face the day, but work steadied me. By lunchtime, I drafted the testing scripts and delegated tasks. My phone vibrated with a text. "From Michael, we need to talk tonight. Please don't avoid me." I stared at the screen, torn between fury and the thread of love still tugging inside me. My response felt heavy. "Okay, 7 p.m. our kitchen." That evening, I set out our waveform printed placemats and put on a pot of stew, comfort food, for comfortless hearts. At precisely 7, Michael stepped in, shoulders hunched, eyes wary. He sat across from me, and we ate in tense silence until my phone buzzed with Claire's bedtime reminder. I stood, goggles of calm lowering over stormy eyes. "I'll take her up," I said, and Michael nodded, relief softening his features. Upstairs, Claire bounded into the room, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Mommy, Daddy said that tonight's the family confessional," she announced joyously, eyes sparkling. My chest tightened, a child's innocence colliding with adult truths. I brushed her hair. "Yes, baby," I said, softly. "Now give me a kiss." She leaned in, I kissed her forehead. I felt her trust settle in my bones, anchoring me. Back downstairs, the table was empty but for 2 steaming bowls of stew and an expectant hush. I poured us each a glass of water and slid into my seat. He cleared his throat. "Sarah, thank you for making this." His voice trembled, rancor and remorse jostling together. I lifted my eyes. "I need to hear it straight," I said. He exhaled, eyes tearing. I unlocked everything I'd hidden, the journal, the letters. But there's more. He slid a sealed envelope across the table. "I never told you about Elena's brother, my half-brother, Ben. He was with her that night. He died, too." My breath caught. "You had another brother?" He nodded. 2 years before the accident, Dad had him with a brief affair. They died together, and Dad vanished with the bodies, never told me until a year ago. I found out when I got his letters to me in a locked box. His hands shook as he handed me the box. My pulse thundered. I opened it to find photocopies, a birth certificate for Ben Martin, the funeral program with both names printed, and a letter from my father-in-law confessing my greatest shame and regret. The weight of generational secrets spilled across my lap. I sat back, tears streaming. "Why?" I whispered. Michael's voice was raw. "Shame. Fear of the family's reputation. They erased my past to start. Anew. And I kept that shame alive by hiding everything." I closed the box. "This is too much." My voice cracked. "All those years you asked me to trust. You completely, but you were concealing entire lives." He met my gaze, vulnerability and desperation in his eyes. "I hate that I hurt you. I want to fix this, if you'll let me." Silence bloomed between us, heavy as midnight. I felt angry, betrayed, but also achingly empathetic to the broken boy he'd been. I stood, gathering the documents. "I need time," I said. "I can't piece this together overnight." He nodded, tears pooling. "Take all the time you need." I retreated to my sister's that night, evidence and letters in a tote bag. Over tea, I laid it all out. "He had 2 siblings I never knew," I said, voice brittle. "He hid grief, shame, his entire youth." Lena rubbed my arm. "You're not crazy, Sarah. You're human. You deserve truth." I exhaled. "I love him, but I need space to process." She nodded, and time to decide if that love can survive this labyrinth of lies. Over the next week, I followed my own advice from the UX workshops I'd led. Mapped the journey. I drew a timeline from 2008 to 2025. Engagement, marriage, twins, Elena's death the second. Birth, Dad's secrets, ours hidden in the kitchen drawers. I annotated each event with emotions. Joy, confusion, grief, betrayal. The timeline stretched with jagged lines. Mine, his, the families, interweaving yet broken. Then I created a reconciliation plan with 3 phases. 1. Expose and acknowledge, complete he's confessed. I've read the journal, the letter, the family shame. 2. Counseling and integration. In progress individual grief therapy for him, couples. Therapy for us. Family therapy for blending past and present. 3. Rituals of remembrance and renewal. Small ceremonies to honor Elena and Ben. Then transition to shared vows acknowledging our true histories. I emailed Michael my plan with a single line. "Let me know if you're willing to walk this path with me." That Saturday, he arrived at my sister's doorstep with a stack of research, grief support groups, articles on family secrets, a letter he drafted to both our families, explaining the truth and asking for forgiveness. He had arranged our first couples therapy session and found a memorial garden where we could scatter the ashes of their childhood stories. I felt tears spring as I took the letter. In that moment, I saw not the man who'd lied, but the boy who'd been betrayed by his own family, and the man who, despite everything, still reached for me. I pressed the timeline into his hands. "This is our path," I said softly. "Together, we step by step. Remember, heal and rebuild." He nodded, voice husky. "Together." That night, I lay awake thinking of all the ways secrets wound through our lives. But I also imagined the healing threads we would weave from truth, the tears we'd share in therapy, the laughter we'd find in new memories, the quiet rituals that would bind our jagged histories into a mosaic of resilience. As the clock ticked past midnight, I whispered into the darkness, "We are not the sum of our secrets, but the choices we make in their aftermath." And with that promise, I finally drifted into sleep, ready to face the truth and to decide whether love could still find its way through the labyrinth of lies. I lie awake until dawn, tracing the pale light across my ceiling, the echoes of our last conversation still humming in my veins. The past 2 weeks have been a whirlwind of tears, confessions, and raw emotional excavations. Now comes the hardest part, rebuilding trust when so many foundations have shifted. That morning, Michael and I meet at Dr. Howard's office for our first couple session. We slip into the plush chairs, our reconciliation plan, timeline spread between us, a roadmap of exposure, therapy, and ritual. Dr. Howard, calm and attentive, invites us to begin. "Sarah," she says gently, "would you like to share how you're feeling since our last meeting?" I draw in a breath, pace my trembling emotions into words. I feel unsettled, but also hopeful. Learning the truth about Elena and Ben shattered my assumptions, but also freed me from the web of lies. My voice cracks. I'm scared trust won't survive, but I want to try. Michael reaches across and takes my hand. "I felt guilt in every breath," he chokes. "I want to prove that honesty can replace the secrets." Dr. Howard nods. "Today, we'll practice active listening." Michael, reflect back what Sarah shared. He leans forward, voice careful. "You feel unsettled because my secrets broke our foundation, yet hopeful because you see this as a chance to rebuild trust." I nod, feeling heard for perhaps the first time in our ordeal. Dr. Howard turns to me. "Now, Sarah, reflect back Michael's feelings." I squeeze his hand. "You've carried guilt for years, and recently, dread that love might slip away. Because of your shame." He exhales, eyes moist. "Yes." Dr. Howard smiles. "This exercise rebuilds connection. Let's assign homework, daily. Check-ins, 3 questions. How are you feeling? What does the other need? What action supports our bond?" We agree. As we walk out, sunlight warms our shoulders, a small promise of renewal. That weekend, we host the first of our rituals of remembrance. In our backyard, we've set up a simple altar, 2 framed photos of Elena and Ben, a single rose beside each, and candles. Michael kneels, voice soft. "Today, we honor the lives lost and the truths buried. Elena, Ben, I carry your love and grief into this marriage, no longer hidden." He lights the candles. I step forward. "I honor your pain, Michael, and vow to carry it with compassion, not judgment." We release 2 white butterflies, small symbols of freedom, into the sky. They flutter upward, a silent benediction. In that moment, grief and hope intertwine, forging a shared memory that includes both past and present. Life settles into a new rhythm. Every morning, Michael and I exchange a quick check-in over coffee, feeling anxious, need reassurance, or feeling connected, thank you. We tally our reconciliation plan on the fridge, ticking off therapy sessions, family dinners with Elena's brother's friends, and volunteer days at the accident survivor support group we joined. I returned to leading my UX workshops, now including a module on designing for emotional truth, lessons drawn from my own journey about how hidden stories shape user experience. At home, Michael encourages me, even grilling dinner while I prepare slides. By the next quarter, I've passed my certification, and Michael's father surprises us. He writes a heartfelt letter admitting his shame, apologizing to both families, and asking forgiveness. It's a miraculous step toward healing across generations. 6 months later, our extended families gather at the memorial garden Michael discovered, where we scatter the ashes of their childhood stories. Layla, Elena's mother, and Michael's mother stands side by side, tearful but united. We each share memories, the first rose Elena planted, the laugh Ben borrowed from his brother, the gentle kindness that transcended. Tragic endings. I speak last. I've learned that secrets cast long shadows. But telling the truth, no matter how painful, clears the path for love to grow stronger. My voice echoes among the trees. Michael squeezes my hand as we release the last petals. That evening, as we walk home under lantern-lit paths, I rest my head on Michael's shoulder. Thank you, I whisper. He kisses my temple. Thank you for staying. Back at our doorstep, I glance at our partnership pact on the wall, amended now to include honoring the past. I press my palm against its frame. I love you, I say softly. He smiles, wrapping me in his arms. I love you more, truth by truth. And as we step inside, hand in hand, I realize that the most powerful secret was the truth itself, and in its light, we found a love more real than any lie could ever obscure.